movies were born big. From the birth of the cinema, you went to the theater to see a spectacle, to witness a historical event, or to dream an impossible dream. In our claustrophobic age, this tendency, this ability, this vision seems lost. No longer is it possible for there to be a David Lean making Lawrence of Arabia, or even to destroy a studio with a Heaven's Gate. In a world with computer-generated images, or whole films made entirely by AI, which fundamentally create a noise which blocks horizons and doesn't illuminate any kind of vista, is it even possible to have a big movie anymore? Tonight, I speak with Andrew Conn, author and essayist, and we get into, can you make a big movie anymore? Are we recording? You went to, so you were at the opening on Megalopolis?
Saw Megalopolis the night before it opened. Before it started, the guy came out and said, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest. Mm-hmm. And I thought, maybe it's one of the New York-based actors, Francis Ford Coppola. Comes out, 85-year-old Coppola. The crowd goes absolutely bananas. Yeah. And he talks for a minute. And the two things he said were, he said that as he's gotten older, he realizes the thing that people are most afraid of is freedom. And then the second thing he said was, I think preemptively trying to be protective of the film and the response. He said, there are many different kinds of films. All I ask you to do is be open-minded. They're not just, there's more than just commercial narrative, linear films. The movie was absolutely batshit crazy, almost unwatchable, but not bad in the way of like a disposable piece of junk. It had there were beautiful moments, and it had an innocence about it.
So like Kurosawa's dreams.
I like Kurosawa dreams. It's more.
So it's not as good as Kurosawa's dreams.
No, there are movies you've heard of in legend where the director finally gets to make his or her dream project. Yeah. And they should never get to do that. And
Jacob's flattered.
But bless Coppola.
So is this a big film?
It is a big film.
So you think
it's not bad in the way. Madam Web or the latest Marvel movie might be bad, where it's like a machine line product that just is not good. This is not good because an artistic vision has gone awry, not because he's trying to please any audience or anything like that. But yes, it is a big film.
So looking at Venn diagrams of not good, let's talk about Oppenheimer.
There are very few directors who are the star of their movies, okay? They don't need a movie star in the movie to make, a $500 million success. Christopher Nolan is in that camp.
As is Ridley Scott.
Yeah, but Nolan is, 30, 40 years younger. Yes. Wes Anderson is in that camp. Wes Anderson is the brand. It's packed with stars, but he is the brand. You're going to see a Wes Anderson movie. Tom Hanks might be in it for a minute, but, Okay, so
we already can say is a big movie characterized by a big director?
No, I don't think that's true. But okay. So because Nolan has that recognition and that cred, he's able to put across a 3-hour historical drama, a biopic, and it makes
That's funny, biopic.
No, it makes.
No, I mean it's funny in the sense of it's really has very little to do with Oppenheimer.
Okay, but it makes $1 billion and wins all the Academy Awards. So the first thing is he is a uniquely humorless director. And my whole thing with art, politics, religion, anytime anyone is humorless about anything, run. Because what that indicates is that their beliefs are so fragile that if you poke it, the smallest bit, it's going to fall apart. His whole body of work is uniquely humorless, right? That's the first thing. The second thing, I don't know, he's praised as like the inheritor of Kubrick, which I think is just absolutely crazy. He can mount a handsome-looking big movie, but name me a good action sequence in the 3 Batman movies that he directed. In Oppenheimer, people go to see it in IMAX. It's not a visually interesting movie. So
No,
you find
it's
that
not, no.
you get to the Trinity, the Trinity test. You're expecting this is the money sequence, and he really gives you nothing visually interesting. So that's another thing. The third reason I just didn't think it was that great. I don't, Cillian Murphy's one of those actors who is a sculptural object. He doesn't need lines. He doesn't need a story. His face, his presence is so interesting that he's one of these actors that you point the camera at him and you're entranced because you see him thinking. So great casting. He's given very little to do in the movie. There's not a lot of psychology to Oppenheimer, the character. But the real problem I have with Nolan...
Wait, when you say that, though, he starts off the film as, this is Oppenheimer as Peter Murphy from Bauhaus. This is Oppenheimer as like an Egon Schiele painting there, especially when he's throwing glasses against the wall. Don't get me wrong, I found it horrible. He's attempting an emotive torture characterization. I don't get it.
It's like why there are no real good movies about writers except for maybe The Shining or Wonder Boys, because when they try to visualize a deeply internal process, you just get cliches of writers pulling a page out of a typewriter, crumpling it up and throwing it in the trash. That's basically the equivalent of what the psychology was in Oppenheimer, right?
Yeah.
So maybe the connection I'm making between Nolan and Coppola is that part of talent is understanding one's talent.
The bridge between this and Grand Budapest, something that I found interesting between both films was that when anyone spoke, when they discussed things, any moment in time you really saw people, they were almost entirely in intimate situations, entirely in small rooms, close, quiet voices. Almost no one in the entire film has a conversation ever outside. The kind of stuff you used to see with Terrence Malick, where you'd have a conversation in a landscape, doesn't exist. Both are very internal in that sense. And so let's go to Grand Budapest. And what makes that a big movie to you?
You could argue Wes Anderson is the inheritor of Kubrick, not in terms of tone, but in terms of film technique. The hermetically sealed frames and the control of the camera and mise en scène. His shots look like Kubrick at times. But to answer the question, he is making big films. The reason, I know he drives some people nuts. I know some people think he's gone up his own ass and his stuff is too twee or this and that. He is a great filmmaker because, like Terrence Malick, two things. He has created his own film grammar. That's something very few directors do.
Hold on.
And then the second thing is one of the toughest things to do as a filmmaker is sustain a tone from the jump, from the start. All of his films are of a piece. He has a vision, and he is able to mobilize an army to take what's in his brain and put it on the screen. In all of his films, even the ones that I think aren't especially successful.
But don't you think, at least in Grand Budapest Hotel, that he's picking Lubitsch clean? Every single shot in that film I can trace to a million Lubitsch, Grand Hotel. Even down to the shot of which I found the one delightful shot of the female lead. Gretchen was her name?
Saoirse Ronan?
So I don't know where you actually see her on the carousel and lights going behind her. But that's straight out of Lubitsch.
Yeah, but so what? Look at De Palma, look at Godard, look at Scorsese.
But let's be blunt. This film is, I think, in every single way, a tribute to early Hitchcock and Lubitsch.
Sure. The ski chase down the mountain is one of the Hitchcock films. I forget which one. So
I think it's Now Lady Vanishes, but it's one of those. We're talking the British period.
So
so that's the thing.
I'm fine with that. I love that stuff.
But I don't think
I love that stuff.
I love it.
He's not
it's
hiding.
not his.
No, that's not true. He's not hiding. That's not true. He's not hiding the
I'm not saying he's
references
hiding
or the
it.
influences.
No. God forbid he'd ever hide it.
The reason I think
I think he kind of leaves it out like Frankenstein's monster. He kind of leaves it all.
No, there's
a spark of life into an old film technique.
No, I think the movie is much bigger and richer than that. I think maybe the reason that
show me one characterization in the film besides Fiennes that you walk away with him. That was a performance. Fiennes, I admit. Fiennes is a great performance.
Well, the kid, the lobby boy, was a non-actor, and he's fantastic in the movie. And
are you going to see him in another film?
Yeah, no. Saoirse Ronan is great. It's stacked. It's stacked with great performances.
But it's Fiennes' film.
But wait. Oh yeah, Fiennes is great. But he unlocks Ray Fiennes. So Ray Fiennes, I've always thought they're hot actors and cold actors. I don't mean physically, right?
Yeah.
Pacino, a hot actor. Okay. Nicholson, a hot actor. Ray Fiennes, English Patient Ray Fiennes, Schindler's List Ray Fiennes, he's a cold actor, a great actor, but a cold actor. Wes Anderson, with Monsieur Gustave, he completely liberates Ray Fiennes. But the reason I love Grand Budapest Hotel and think, I don't know if it's his best film, but it's his biggest film, is that it's similar to Philip Roth's late period and Scorsese's late period. Maybe we could segue to Scorsese off this, but it's the film in which Anderson wedded his technique and his obsessions to history. It is his World War II film, it is his Holocaust film, and I just think it's an extraordinary film. Now, he's able to make these movies on such a small budget and get these casts like what Woody Allen used to do 30 years ago.
He's like the flip of the coin to Quentin Tarantino. He's so lost in cinematic history. Like, for example, you mentioned like this film is his World War II film.
Yeah.
For the life of me,
yeah,
I can't place any historical context.
It's about the wiping away of a tradition, and Gustave is killed
what city
at the end of the movie. It's a Fantasia.
Yeah,
on all
exactly.
These themes.
It's a Fantasia.
But here's the thing.
I mean, don't we have enough death?
Here's the thing.
Isn't it a little weird?
I'm going to make my defense of Anderson because I do think he's a great director. There's the rap on him is that his style is autistic, right? That it's like ping pong dialogue. And he's building dioramas, he's building dollhouses. Now, again, the first thing is that he has an extraordinary vision and he's able to actualize it. Okay, so that's not nothing, right? And I showed my daughter some Wes Anderson movies when she was very, very young, and now if she sees 3 seconds of a trailer of one of his films, she knows immediately that it's Wes Anderson. That is not nothing in terms of cinematic history. There are a handful of directors who could do that. That's the first thing. The second thing is, everyone says, his stuff is emotionally cold, it's twee, it's this and that. I don't agree with that at all. I would say it's stylized, but then when you look at the films again, the films are full of almost unbearable pain. And if they were to be told straight, if Rushmore would be told straight, if Tenenbaums would be told straight, if Grand Budapest would be were to be told in a traditional style, they would be almost unwatchable in terms of the depth of the emotional despair. I think he is absolutely extraordinary.
But I'm watching the inside of someone's skull. I'm not watching the world, and that's a weird feeling. It's a weird feeling to just sit down for a film and where, I guess as a person interested in images, I'm interested in images of the world and how they connect with the world and how they work in the world. And whereas I look at a film like Oppenheimer, I go, okay, that's just part of the apparatus of oppression, right? That's just part of the machinery that keeps us being stupid and keep thinking that, scientists are artists and magicians rather than people who put the hard work in. And then I look at Wes Anderson and go, okay, well, I'm going to look at the world now. Let's look at a vision of World War II. Okay, I'm looking at the inside of Wes Anderson's eyeballs, which is an achievement. Certainly a tremendous achievement in Rushmore. And in the Royal Tenenbaums, a magnificent achievement other than the fact that he couldn't put the fucking film on Convent Avenue. He could shoot the film on Convent Avenue, but he couldn't say Convent Avenue. I mean, he just completely refuses to acknowledge existence. And that's, I don't mind all the stuff you're talking about, the emotional stuff. I mean, I find that actually kind of engaging. I'm actually kind of sick of emotions in film.
Well, look,
I like that, but it's the disengagement with reality I have a problem with.
He is actualizing in film after film after film.
And I agree
to
with
greater
that.
or lesser success. I happen to respond to it, you happen not to.
No, I respond to it very, very well in a personal vision. When it gets down to a genocide, it's a little weird.
We agree to disagree. I think he's telling a story. His stuff, you know, it spins into the fantastic, and I'm fine with that. But let me bring it back.
Okay.
And this might be a good way to segue into TV and how we're watching films and streaming, right? So a critic I really like a lot is Richard Brody. He writes for The New Yorker.
Okay.
You know, they always put him online. They don't give him a lot of print space. He's very academic. His tastes are very perverse. He wrote a biography of Godard, this sort of thing. But he had a great line once. He said, related to streaming and TV, everyone's saying, you know, every week there's a new show that's great, which is nonsense. And he said there is a difference between making a movie and shooting film. Anderson is making a movie. You watch his movies, whether you like them or not, you know within seconds, this guy understands what one can do with the filmmaking apparatus, like Orson Welles did, like Godard did, like Terrence Malick did. He's making his own grammar. Most of the stuff on TV is very high level artisans, you know, working at a professional level. They're shooting film. They're not making a movie.
Well, they're working in an accepted grammar of the set.
Yeah. So to come back to the question, you know, is Grand Budapest a big film? I would say all of Wes Anderson's movies are big films. Is Oppenheimer a big film? I would say yes. I don't think it's a successful big film. Scorsese, absolutely.
I will definitely admit Grand Budapest Hotel, particularly in the way it treats the hotel, is a big film.
Yeah.
And I have to say that I particularly delighted in.
Yeah.
And again, and that is the me that sees Lubitsch all over. But I love the shots of the hotel. I love the fury, the freneticism. Yeah. When I see Wes Anderson being emotive and wonderful, and really where I saw him doing something, well, he did it in Rushmore too when he played with The Who, you know, and with Quick While He's Away. Like he can really
He's great with music.
Sing with music in a way, and he does that in Grand Budapest Hotel. So that's where I see that's a big film. So I give you, okay, I feel that, and there's no question, he's an auteur. But let's talk about the greatest auteur maybe in American history. Mr. Scorsese, and his most recent film.
So Scorsese, I would argue, 81-year-old Martin Scorsese is in the conversation as America's greatest living artist. He's certainly up there with Dylan.
Director, definitely.
Any medium. I think he's saying the most about America of any artist in any medium. And what I would there are a few things. First, the longevity and the vitality. So he's 81. You know, you look at that generation. You know, the survivors are like Spielberg and Scorsese. They managed to, and part of talent is understanding the talent, right? So De Palma's no longer in the conversation. Friedkin was in the wilderness for years and years and years. Bogdanovich bombed out. All these guys, there are very few of them that have that kind of longevity and youthfulness, right? That's one. Two, similar to Roth, that late era run of Philip Roth where he took his obsessions and he wedded them to American history, and then he exploded out of his own canon. And every year he was just batting out one masterpiece after another. And Scorsese's doing the same thing. Now, I'm going to connect Killers of the Flower Moon with The Irishman, okay?
Which I didn't like.
Okay, so these are late films.
Yeah.
Okay? So the bad rap on Scorsese in the late 80s and 90s, 2000s, you know, is that, you know, he loves these gangsters, he loves Joe Pesci killing people, the violence is crazy, you know, this and that. He's reveling in it, right? You look at The Irishman, you look at Killers of the Flower Moon. These are very dark films. They're very long films. He totally de-glamorizes the violence, but he yokes the stories deep into American history. And it's almost, you feel an act of repentance for the young director who got off on and maybe identified with these guys or did enjoy the tough talk. And again, Pauline Kael, she had the best line about Goodfellas, a movie which she didn't especially like. She said, watching Goodfellas, this is 1990, she said, watching Goodfellas has the excitement of being at a live rock concert. And that's true. And I remember when I saw Pulp Fiction a few years later, opening night, in College Town cinema. And it was better than a rock concert. And Scorsese's movies gave you that. These late period Scorsese movies, he is suggesting that, you know what, I was making movies about the mob, but they were always about sin and greed and the lengths to which people will go to get what they want. And now he's tying those themes to deep into American history, and maybe this was his project all along. And the other great thing about Scorsese is that the year The Irishman came out, that might not have even been Scorsese's best film of that year. He also has this whole side project of documentary work. The Dylan documentaries, the documentary about the New York Review of Books, the Fran Lebowitz documentary. I mean, the guy is just a machine and a teacher and a preservationist. To me, him and Dylan are the two greatest living American artists in any medium. Killers of the Flower Moon.
No, it's like reading a Stendhal novel. I mean, it has that level of complexity, that level of ethical drive, that. No, I mean, it's absolutely something of the quality that you would see that Jean Renoir would do. I mean, this is absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely to reach back to the cinema of the long shot. I can't even tell you how delighted I was to see a shot run for more than 8 seconds.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's wonderful to see that.
Yeah. There's something to late works of art by masters where you feel like it's a summing up, and
of all cinematic history, even in this film. I mean, some of these crane shots are absolutely exquisite.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know if they're crane shots anymore. They're probably drone shots now. I mean, he's really, really, really exquisite stuff. An
issue with violence in movies, right, is that there can never be a truly anti-war film. Why? Because movies are kinetic. Action is exciting. So even if you're showing something horrific, it's exciting. So the point I'm trying to make is that that's
Plato's point.
With The Irishman and Killers of the Flower Moon, the way he stages the violence is so offhand and so clumsy. In The Irishman, the scene where Frank ultimately kills his best friend, Jimmy Hoffa, it's so ugly and so clumsy. And the way Scorsese stages it, it's like, this is what this world is. It's not the 3-minute Copacabana shot in Goodfellas. It's not cool, it's not fun. It means being sent to kill your best friend for 40 years, and then these other guys wrap him up in plastic and throw him in a dump. That's what it is. And I have to think that Scorsese in his 80s is now making these films. Each one, he has to know the clock is ticking. Each one could be his last statement, and you just get a sense of a guy who, deeply Catholic upbringing. He was going to be a priest. He went to seminary. You get a sense of a guy really examining the most important things and trying to make a major statement, and he's doing it.
I watched these 3 films in quick succession while I was cutting something else, and I can't even tell you. It was like opening the window watching the Scorsese film. It was like watching. It was like you turn it on. It's like, oh, this is what a big movie looks like. This is what
a big movie looks like.
But it's still not big. And this is okay. So example. So when they're talking,
but when you say,
so there they are. Every single conversation. They're in these cramped little rooms. He has one conversation, DiCaprio, with his wife, outdoors, right?
Yeah, at the end.
And when they have that meeting, and that's where you get. But even then, he got that camera in real tight. It's so isolating. I just don't know if our mindsets want to see a horizon anymore.
But it's an interesting question. What you're asking about big films, then you talk about like the composition and if it's a 2-shot or a 1-shot or how.
But also,
tight.
I mean, think about when you see The Good, Bad, and the Ugly, and he looks out, or Paths of Glory.
I think
he looked out over the trenches.
I think it might be a semantics issue. I feel like I do not mistake a big film with an epic film.
Okay.
There are epic films that fail as a big film. So I would say Oppenheimer is an epic-sized film that fails as a big film.
King of Kings is another one.
I would say that Tree of Life, the Terrence Malick film, and most of Malick, which is shot on a shoestring and only usually has a few actors, his films, in terms of philosophically, existentially, those are immense. Those are immense.
But Thin Red Line really stays a big film. Like
Thin Red Line is a great film in every way. In every way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there are these films that present themselves as big and they're not good, and they disappear in a week. I mean, Napoleon. Ridley Scott is a very interesting director.
Yeah.
The guy made Blade Runner and Alien. You can't, Thelma and Louise. I mean, you could list
not
half a dozen great films.
My favorite, The Duelist.
The Duelist.
The Duelist to me is one of the greatest films ever.
He's also made a phenomenal amount of crap, and so you get a movie like Napoleon, and you have 85, 86-year-old Ridley Scott, and you have one of the great unhinged actors who, with the right director and the right script, is magnificent, but in the wrong situation is dreadful. Like he was in Joker, like he was in Napoleon. He's lost. That pretends to be a big film. It's nothing. It has no point of view about Napoleon. You leave that movie, you don't know what the movie's take on Napoleon is. That feels like, it looks like an epic. It has the budget of an epic, but it's small.
So now I'll tell you what I think is maybe the biggest movie ever made: Napoleon.
Oh,
by Abel Gance.
Sure. Okay.
When you see Abel Gance's Napoleon, everything about that movie feels big.
But
and that's something. And that's I just don't know if you could make a movie like that anymore.
You can. I mean, there will be blood. I mean, you're talking about.
Okay, so you think so? Blood. That's
a huge film. That's
a great film too. It is.
That
so
film.
I almost felt like Anthony Lewis should be twirling his mustache.
That film is in the conversation with Citizen Kane and The Godfather and Chinatown.
No.
As it absolutely is.
Andrew Conn, thank you very much for talking with me tonight.
Pleasure.
Thanks.
See you at the movies.